Satoshi Nakamoto said, peer-to-peer electronic cash without a financial institution. Why is it that everywhere seems to be financial institutions? That's not Bitcoin. That's not what it was supposed to be. Bitcoin is permissionless. Stop asking for permission to buy it. We are Bitcoiners. What is the most important thing that we believe in is proof of work. Nothing in this world is free. If it is, it's too good to be true. You pay for your convenience, with your privacy, with your personal information. Look at the internet. You shouldn't have to compromise on your privacy for convenience. And that's just what you look around. And yeah, Strike has great marketing. They have big budgets. They can convince you that this is the way, but there is a better way. And we believe we've built one.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button, which is the easiest way you could show your support for the show and help it grow, as well as making sure you don't miss out any of the future episodes. Also, a big shout out to StampSeed for sponsoring the show. Check out stampseed.com for more information. And now, let's get the episode underway. Welcome back to Your Bitcoin Story with your host Gigi, where we dive into the personal journeys, insights, and ideas shaping the future of Bitcoin. Each episode, we bring you unique voices and perspectives to explore the power of Bitcoin in transforming lives and refining freedom. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Grafton, the head of growth at Vexel, a platform championing peer-to-peer Bitcoin transactions with no KYC. In this episode, we'll dig into the beauty of peer-to-peer, the importance of privacy, and why anonymity matters more than ever. Grafton, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Thanks for taking the time to come on. And yes, as I mentioned, we've just recently launched episode 100 focusing on privacy, and I'm trying to get more episodes on focusing on Bitcoin privacy and essentially getting people to start stacking non-KYC Bitcoin. I see every day going onto X, people sending their screenshots of buying Bitcoin on Strike and River and everywhere. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, you are essentially doxing yourself to these companies and perhaps even to the government. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to today's episode, talking more about P2P trades, how Vexel came about, what you guys are doing over there. But before we jump into that, as we do with all guests, maybe Grafton, you can take us on a little memory lane of how Grafton stumbled upon Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so long ago, things are blurry and there's a little gray, but I can tell you I grew up, and I've told the story, many times, but I grew up traveling around the United States going to see my favorite band in concert over and over, which, Americans would probably know them as jam bands.
Mm-hmm.
And, like the ethos of the Grateful Dead and Widespread Panic and these types of bands. So, every bit of money that I had growing up, I spent on concert tickets and gasoline and hotels. And this is really, kind of how I found my way into like a peer-to-peer type economy is you're really working with, you're traveling, going to sometimes 10, 15 shows, a year, and you're paying for those shows, and you're doing that by trading things. I growing up, I had the t-shirt business. I would print t-shirts up and sell them out of the back of my car before the concert started. And, that would help me raise money to go to the next show. But with the bands, they allow taping of their concerts. So if you can bring along a microphone and, set up a stand in the taper section and record. And this creates a community based around trading those shows. So if you go to a show and it was a good one, you're going to trade that show for someone else's music as well. So this was the peer-to-peer nature of it. And as we started to move into like the digital age, more and more the digital age, we weren't trading CDs anymore or tapes. We were trading, the mini disc is what they were, a lot of them. But we started trading online and file sharing. And so these sites came up, like panicstream.com and different organizations that helped map out the shows and create databases. And now you've probably heard of Live Music Archive and stuff like this. And this really introduced me into Bitcoin because a lot of them were run on like donation based kind of things and trying to find the easiest way to donate. And then my friend, he also a big Panic fan, I can call him Grizz. He told me about Bitcoin for the first time, really. Like I was like, what is this? What's going on? And at that point, he had some friends and they were trying to mine it and things like that. And then they discovered that actually it was more lucrative to mine Litecoin and sell the Litecoin to buy Bitcoin. And so this was, I think 2012 or 2013. I can't remember. It's like so long ago. And we're in such different places. I mean, once I moved to Czech Republic, like everything from that all changed. But this was kind of my into Bitcoin. Is I was very curious about it. I bought Bitcoin, I sold Bitcoin, I bought more Bitcoin, I sold more Bitcoin. And, if I had just not ever sold any of the Bitcoin I bought, you and I would probably not be talking. I'd be in a very different place right now. I mean, that's, most Bitcoiners I know, like,
Yeah.
find me some real old OG who, that we
Still
know
holding.
about that didn't buy and sell Bitcoin, that, somebody who bought and hold from 2010 or something. It's not, you don't meet too many of them. But this was, part of my life, Bitcoin. I thought about it, this, and then I moved to Czech Republic in 2011. And, going back home, figuring out things with my friend, I thought I was just going to be here a year. I was teaching English. In 2014, I took a year off and went to Korea to also teach English there. And upon coming back to Prague, I fell really hard into Bitcoin rabbit hole again. In 2015, I'd say, is when I started getting very serious with Bitcoin. I worked at this company called Alza, which is like the largest retailer in Czech Republic, like consumer goods, electronics. And I taught English to their employees, to the people who work there, the managers, these kinds of things. And a lot of our conversations were around Bitcoin and this. And then lo and behold, Alza became the largest retailer in the world to accept Bitcoin. And so, Bitcoin was cool. I'm living in Prague. Prague is a very Bitcoin city. There's Paralelní Police. There's, Slush Pool. There's Brains. There's Trezor. There's, all of this movement coming out of here. And so I kind of, during COVID, I never thought that I'd be able to work in this industry. I talk to people, not machines. And never thought. So during COVID, there was actually a job opening at Trezor and I applied. And after one interview, they were like, you're hired, man. We need you. And that was when everything changed for me. I started in like technical support, helping people with their Trezors when they had problems, all through email. And then in Miami, 2022, I went to the Bitcoin conference there. And when I got back, like my life changed. When I met Leia, who was my CEO, of Vexel, and I had heard about Bitcoin. I basically pushed her into a corner and I said, "Tell me about Vexel, because this sounds cool, and this is what I kind of want to work on." Yeah, and so that's like Leia was like, "Well, first of all, we're a nonprofit, and I can't hire you." I was like, "No, it's cool. Like I'm happy at Trezor. I want to learn more because this seems really cool, and I'm happy to help you guys with whatever you need." So my position at Vexel really started as a volunteer, doing what I could. And, they asked me to come to join full time to be the head of growth at Vexel. And yeah, that's super cool to me to have Stick and Slush and Leia and these people, people that I've looked up to for a really long time, sit down and say, "Hey, we need you and we want you." I never thought I'd be in that position. And now here I am. And I couldn't be more thrilled and happy with what I do. Yeah. So kind of that's my little journey into Bitcoin. I could go on and on, but I won't. I'll save you.
Nice. It's super inspiring, like these kind of stories where, a lot of people want to work in Bitcoin, but they think, because they're not programmers, they can't be working in it. And you're just living proof. And to a certain extent with myself as well, with the content that I do, trying to educate people, trying to get people into self-custody, it's like there's so many different factors that you can work on in Bitcoin that, anything is possible. And, sometimes you can go and get that volunteer job like in your case, and then next thing you see, the next door opens and the next door opens, and you're actually loving what you're doing. So don't be afraid. If anything, taken away from Grafton's story, like don't be afraid to follow your passion and your dreams.
Well, it's not even me, right? With Vexel, we put jobs up for looking for community managers, which were very clear. These are volunteer positions. We need help.
Yeah.
We're a nonprofit. We don't have any budget for this. We have a few people who have, reached out and said, hey, I want to be a community manager and I'm really looking for a job in Bitcoin. And I will name drop them. Michael in Canada, he wanted to work in industry. He started working with us, helping us locally in Vancouver at Bitcoin meetups. Really amazing things are happening in Vancouver in Canada. There's the mayor is a Bitcoiner, the town and the people there, they have awesome community events in Canada. Vancouver especially is really doing something. And Michael reached out. I want to help. I want to help make Vexel a reality. And, he was working a fiat mining job. I talked to Michael about 2 weeks ago, and Michael has a new job working in the Bitcoin industry, working at a mining company. I think it's Luxor Mining or something. And, you could just see him beaming from ear to ear. And then I have to talk about Marco. Marco is our community manager in Italy and in Switzerland. I visited Lugano 2 years ago now to present Vexel at a local Bitcoin meetup there, Satoshi Spritz. And Marco invited me in. Vexel was on a tight budget. And so I said, hey, Switzerland's kind of expensive. Does anybody maybe have a couch I can sleep on? We're really working on a shoestring budget. And Marco, of course, was like, sure, you can stay on my couch. I did not know Marco has a cat. I'm very allergic to cats. And his cat slept basically on my head all night. So I woke up in the morning and I'm bleeding from both eyes, basically. My eyes were burning so bad. And he was like, oh my God, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Thank you so much for letting me sleep on your couch. Marco applied to be a community manager. He not only has done an amazing job there building the community, but in Lugano at Plan B last year, he presented Vexel to local people. And it was amazing. Marco now was hired and works full-time for Plan B Network. And
Amazing.
These are two people who volunteered at Vexel, and we have community managers who are, in Nigeria and Kenya, all over the world. And these people just reached out. How can I help? I want to make Vexel a reality. I want Vexel. We are super grateful. And if there's anything we can do to, help people that help us, we want to give back. And it's amazing to see these people grow and find those jobs that truly make them happy. And I'm a testament to that. Stepan, who is our head of social media, I met him at a conference. He told me he wanted to work. He started off basically as a volunteer intern, and now he's working with us. So this is how it happens, is you look for people who really share the same passion, who understand that they want to make Bitcoin a reality and they want to make it convenient and accessible for people. And that's what we're really trying to do. You shouldn't have to compromise on your privacy for convenience. And that's just what you look around. And yeah, Strike has great marketing. They have big budgets. They can convince you that this is the way, but there is a better way. And we believe we've built one.
So I think on that point, I think we should give a little bit of an overview. What is Vexel? A lot of the listeners keep hearing us dropping about Vexel. And they're like, come on, Grafton, spill the beans. What is Vexel? So I mentioned it's a P2P non-KYC exchange, but you do have a little bit of a certain different twist because you are not the only non-KYC exchange out there. There's quite a few of them that I name dropped on previous episodes, but Vexel is something new to our listeners that are hearing on the show. So maybe you can give a top level overview of what is Vexel.
Sure, yeah. Well, very basic. Vexel is a mobile app for Android, iOS, and what it does is it allows you to peer-to-peer without KYC with your social graph or your web of trust, let's say. So what does that mean? That means that I'm never trading with people that I don't have trusted contacts with. So many people who have been buying Bitcoin peer-to-peer for a while have used many different means. They've used Telegram channels or Signal channels, or they've used services like Bisq or Hodl Hodl or any of these other ones. And my biggest issue with these is, especially Telegram groups, that's a nightmare. They don't scale. They're rife with scammers. They require intense moderation, and it doesn't work. It doesn't scale. In a bear market where, maybe there's a couple people here and there interested, yes. But the second that people start, getting really interested in Bitcoin, it doesn't scale.
It's out of control.
It just fills up with scammers. If I look at other peer-to-peer platforms, which I've already kind of named a few, these all expose me to unnecessary risk. None of them, they're no KYC, but how do I buy fiat on-ramp? Well, my bank account. Well, my bank account's going to put my name in your bank account and my bank account number, right? So even if you have 5,000 star reviews of 5,001, I might be the one bad review. And so we believe that reputation systems that are based on numbers or scores or stars are inherently flawed because they can be gamed. And I always use the expression of or the example of, if you come to Prague, which you've been to Prague.
Yeah.
And maybe you've never been here before. Well, what are you going to do? You have a couple options. You can, if you don't know anybody, you're going to go on the internet. You might wind up on a TripAdvisor or Google Maps or something and looking for reviews of restaurants. And unfortunately, the number one reviewed restaurant in Prague is an Indian restaurant. I love Indian food. I do. But if you're coming to Prague for the first time, don't go to an Indian restaurant. Go eat Czech food. So how do you find out where the best places to visit in Prague are? Well, you better ask a friend. Somebody who's been there. They have experience. They have that personal touch. They understand you and they know who you are. And so when you look at being able to trade Bitcoin in the same way, is I don't want to trade with the stranger, because even though that offer might be good for someone else, it's not tailored and it's not good for me. So what we do is, based on that web of trust, I have offers in the marketplace. I post an offer, and that offer is encrypted for each person individually that's in my contacts. Now, what that means is that, well, if you and I know each other, we are direct friends, right? But let's say we have a mutual friend, Max, right? So you and I don't know each other, but we both know Max. Well, we're connected because we both are direct friends with Max. So that starts to scale, because where initially I have one friend in common, well, then I have 2 friends, then I have 10 friends. And now when I look for offers, I look for at least 10 or 15 friends in common. So that means that when I meet somebody to buy Bitcoin, I'm not meeting a total stranger. I'm meeting someone that I don't know their identity, but I do know that I have 15 friends in common with them. Right? So this is how you scale trust. You scale it on a web of trust social graph that scales over time, gradually, then suddenly. So when we launched Vexel in Czech Republic in 2022, there was no marketplace, there was nothing. Within a matter of a few days, there were 1 million connections, and offers started appearing in the marketplace, and people started using Vexel to buy Bitcoin peer-to-peer with no KYC. Vexel is fully open source, right? It is nonprofit. It is a tool that enables you, that empowers the individual to trade privately with the people that they can trust, right? So we created something from a selfish point of view, because this is what I want. I want to be able to trade with people peer-to-peer with no KYC, and I want to do it privately, and I want to be able to trust the people that I'm trading with, that they aren't going to scam me. So many people say, well, is it risky to meet somebody to buy Bitcoin? And I go, no. Is it risky to meet your friends? No. I mean, who are your friends if you're afraid to meet somebody? And then, it's like, well, how do you do it? Yeah, face to face. I encourage you to buy Bitcoin with cash. Do it once. I promise you'll want to do it again, because it's what Bitcoin is supposed to be. Satoshi Nakamoto said, peer-to-peer electronic cash without a financial institution. Why is it that everywhere seems to be financial institutions? That's not
Convenience.
Bitcoin. That's not what it's supposed to be.
Convenience, right? Going back to the convenience part.
Convenience, yeah. What do you give away in the sake of convenience? Bitcoin is permissionless. Stop asking for permission to buy it. And if you want Bitcoin to remain permissionless, as it was intended, then start using other tools. Start looking elsewhere and realizing that there are people who are focusing on this, and there are people who are building solutions to be able to do this. Somehow, somewhere, we got social anxiety. I think COVID introduced social anxiety to the world, where, it's like, we're okay to meet our close friends, but meeting other people and then going outside of our comfort zone is really challenging for a lot of people, where it used to be normal. But it's funny, because I love going to the farmer's market, right? I love showing up on a Saturday morning and buying, meat and eggs and stuff from people that are, this kind of thing is like, you're getting fresh food from the farmers. It's not been handled by some conglomerate that shipped bananas all over the world or whatever, apples with wax on them. You're getting apples peer to peer straight from the farmer, right? And I think Bitcoin, we have to apply that the same way. Looking at premiums, people always talk about, oh, there's a premium on no KYC Bitcoin. Is there? Because I trade with my friends, and my friend has never been like, well, actually, I'm going to need 7% extra on top of that. Because it's like, yeah, we're all Bitcoiners. We're not grifters. We're people who we're passionate about Bitcoin. We buy Bitcoin, we spend Bitcoin, we earn Bitcoin. And so looking at what Vexel is trying to do is it's trying to answer that question. All right, I learned about Bitcoin. Now, how do I buy it? So, your listeners, probably every single one of them have a different method, right? Well, use my referral link. You'll get $5 in free Bitcoin, and I'll get $5 in free Bitcoin. Win-win. Nope, sorry, lose-lose. You both give away your information. You both put yourself at risk. You both put yourself in a KYC database that becomes a honeypot for hackers that can be exploited and used, and your information can be leaked. Don't incentivize your friends to give away their personal information with convenience. Incentivize them to use Bitcoin as it was intended, peer-to-peer. No middleman. And that's what Vexel is. Yeah.
I like it. It's this social proof, social graph is kind of a growing trend in this space. Ever since last year, kind of, I've been much more involved in Noster. And of course, I'm also an ambassador of Atlantis. And, kind of the idea there is also kind of, when you travel to a different city, you kind of see, the reviews and likes what your friends who have previously visited that city, suggest. Is it a good place or a bad place? Because you going to a different city and reading a review from like a 50-year-old mom probably have different interests and different tastes in life. So like it doesn't really, like, it's not an accurate indication. And I love that you kind of bring in that social proof graph to Bitcoin trading, which certainly it's something that would benefit a lot, because at the moment, as you said, through the peer-to-peer platforms, and I'll be totally transparent, like I trade my non-KYC Bitcoin primarily on RoboSats, but I have no idea who's sitting behind that robot avatar. And to be honest, every time I do the exchange, like, still there's like a little bit of a heartbeat, like, am I going to get scammed? Like, am I going to get that money? Am I not? Like, you have no idea who's sitting there. And the same thing goes with Hodl. There's someone that's got like 50 stars, 50 reviews, all 5 stars. But then you're also like the timer's up and the money still didn't get, cleared. And you're like in the chat, like, hello, like,
yeah. And also, also the thing about reputation systems as well is that means that they have to create and hold a database of trades. So these trades happen, leave a review. So let's say that, somebody does want that information. They have disputes, they have mitigation things that they can go, well, actually, we can't see anything unless there's a dispute, and then we can see everything, right? And you go, well, that's really confusing. So I can ask you about your experience with this, right? Well, if you're buying Bitcoin that way, you're using your bank account, correct?
Yeah.
And who are you sending money to?
Well, I mentioned this next. So like I did dox myself on Strike, because when Strike came out to Europe, like I went to test it out, and it was super convenient. I must say that. And what I loved about Strike was this selling point of 0 fees on withdrawing Bitcoin. But after that, I went back to my ways of doing non-KYC trade through RoboSats, and I can basically trade with people that are selling their Bitcoin in exchange for money on Strike. On Strike, I just have a username account, whatever it is, Mr. No Name. And when I do the trade, I send it to their Strike username account, so I don't see theirs. They don't really see my real name, like they don't see my government name coming through. So that's kind of like semi-private, but I've still doxed myself to Strike. So Strike knows kind of my real identity. So if Strike gets hacked, my data gets leaked out from that. But in the sense of the guy who I'm buying the Bitcoin off, he doesn't see, for example, if my name was Bob Merget, he doesn't see Bob wired me the money. It's this Mr. No Name send me the money. So that's kind of in my personal case.
Yeah. I mean, I've had talked at length about this with many people, and it's like, okay, it's on one side, it's okay. Strike's okay with it. Strike's a Bitcoin company. But then, it starts to reflect, well, your bank says, well, what are you doing this? And then your bank asks you, what are these transactions for? Why do you have frequent transactions to this. We're not okay with that. And then they might freeze or shut down your bank account until you explain things. And so for me, there's just so much risk when I'm trading with strangers and when I'm trading digitally. And also, it's like we think that we have to trade digitally because we don't think we can do it locally, right? Look around. I mean, you have Bitcoin ATMs everywhere, but the fees on a Bitcoin ATM are like 12 to sometimes 20%. I'm from a small Mississippi town. I was shocked that I went into a local gas station and there was a Bitcoin ATM in my tiny town. So I'm like, okay, let's check the price. And it was like 23% premium to buy. And so a lot of people go, well, I can't buy at ATMs because it's so expensive. And then so I have to go down this exchange rabbit hole, when it's like, well, in reality, there's tools that enable you to buy things locally. And that's the beauty of what happened with Vexel. Something that was completely unexpected, right? Is we launched Vexel. Vexel is a Bitcoin buying, and we're helping people connect, right? Well, what happened was people said, but did you know that I can sell my goods and services here? So immediately we started seeing honey for sale. We started seeing eggs for sale. I've told this story many times, but we saw an ad for frozen octopus on Vexel. Someone was selling, they went fishing and they went to Croatia. They caught some octopus. They brought it back to Czech Republic, froze it, and they were selling it. And I'm going, this has to be a joke. Like, who in their right mind would buy frozen octopus from a peer-to-peer Bitcoin app? Well, 2 days later, there's a guy on Twitter holding up the octopus in his backyard. I have a picture of it. It's on, you can find it, but like holding up the octopus and going, look what I bought on Vexel. And so people started seeing, well, there's a circular economy aspect to this that doesn't exist with informal Bitcoin exchanges or other peer-to-peer platforms. Because with Vexel, not only, it's like, okay, maybe I already believe that I have a solution for buying Bitcoin. I've KYC'd on Strike. It's just the way that I do it, and I'm going to keep doing it that way. Okay, fine. But maybe you'd like to earn some Bitcoin. Maybe you'd like to sell that bike sitting in the corner that you promised yourself you were going to ride it, but you never got on it, and it's an eyesore. Put it on Vexel, sell it for Bitcoin. Are you a plumber? Are you a carpenter? Do you have a skill? Can you back end develop? Do you front end develop? Are you full stack? Put an offer up and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. I want to earn Bitcoin. And you know what? You'll find one, because who helps you? Who's got your back? Who are your best references? It's your web of trust. It's the people that you've spent your whole life gaining the confidence and trust in. And when you see, hey, this person's looking for a job, I have 10 friends in common and they're all good people, let me give this guy a shot. So circular economy aspect is having people, and this is what blew my mind, is I'm looking on Twitter and there's a guy in Botswana who bought pickled vegetables, like a huge jug of pickled vegetables on Vexel in Botswana. And so you're going like, okay, there's something to this, right? It is not there is not a public order book on Vexel. You are never going to see, I don't know what's on Vexel. The only thing I see is my network, as my friends and my friends of friends. So when I see like, oh, there's somebody selling honey on Vexel, well, I'd much rather buy that honey from someone on Vexel than buy the whatever processed stuff they're selling in the supermarket, right? And so that aspect of it is, even if you don't think you want to buy Bitcoin peer-to-peer, maybe you do. Maybe you are looking for a job. Maybe you are wanting to, how many carnivore beef jerky makers do we have in Bitcoin? And like, I also eat pretty much carnivore, and I am too lazy sometimes to make beef jerky. I would love to buy it from somebody rather than buying the packaged stuff from the supermarkets that has sugar and everything else in it, right? So Vexel is truly a tool to empower local circular economies that are based on, well, I already have this network of people that I know and trust. And people will say, well, I don't know any other Bitcoiners. I'm the only Bitcoiner.
I was going to say, that was my one question. Like, what if but let's say you create an account on Vexel, you connect your connects, and there's no one there. How do I progress with the exchange?
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of the movie Field of Dreams,
No.
but great American baseball film.
Okay.
But Kevin Costner, he's a big baseball fan. He decides to build a baseball field in the middle of nowhere, like a cornfield. And everybody says, "Why the hell are you doing this?" He says, "Well, if you build it, they will come." And every marketplace in existence, every single one of them, eBay, Craigslist, doesn't matter, Facebook Marketplace, every one of them was empty from day one. If you want something, you've got to use it and you got to build it. You cannot expect things. We are Bitcoiners. What is the most important thing that we believe in is proof of work. Nothing in this world is free. If it is, it's too good to be true. You pay for your convenience with your privacy, with your personal information. Look at the internet. Look at Google, right? Google became a beast because they said, we'll make everything free. Gmail, remember Gmail was invite only?
No.
And yeah, I had an invite. I was one of the first invite only to Gmail. They created the buzz. They went, oh, wow, free email. You never have to delete an email. Google used to advertise. Don't worry, you'll never have to delete an email. Because why? Because we gathered every bit of information about you. Now we can target audiences. We can target you. You pay for convenience with your information. So if you don't have someone on Vexel, like if you join, which I would be at this point, we have over 14,000 users. We all know 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Or as I like to say, 6 degrees from Satoshi Nakamoto. You'd be surprised if you don't have a lot of connections. And you can check that. If you open up Vexel and you look at the settings page, in the very top left, you'll see your reach. And your reach means this is how many people that I'm potentially able to trade with in my network, right? And every time you log in, I promise you that number gets bigger because it scales. But if you don't have anybody there, if you don't see any offers in your marketplace, create one. Create an offer. Say, hi, I want to buy Bitcoin. I want to sell Bitcoin. I'm looking for a job. Because the next person that joins, well, they see your offer. And then it starts to scale. So don't be discouraged. If it doesn't work for you the first time, okay. Then say, I want this. Tell other people about it. If you talk to another Bitcoiner, say, hey, we should really. I think there's not a single Bitcoiner out there. Maybe there are, but like not many of them that if you said, I only buy my Bitcoin with cash peer to peer, right? They would go, that's stupid. Every person would go, that's cool. That's what it should be, right? So we have these solutions. So if you want to use it, build it, tell people about it. Go to your local Bitcoin meetups. This is an area where I am super grateful and thankful for the amazing Bitcoin scene that Europe has. There are amazing communities of Bitcoiners all over. In Italy, you have Satoshi Spritz. In Germany and Austria, you have 21 Here you have Jednadvatset. They're everywhere, right? These amazing communities full of people. So if you want to learn about Bitcoin, go to your local Bitcoin meetup. You'll meet other Bitcoiners. You can talk about Vexel. You can get to know each other. And if you're comfortable, then you can swap Vexel contacts with each other, right? And you grow your network. So I think that's, it's the chicken and the egg. Like you can't expect it to just exist. You have to build it because remember, peer-to-peer is you're not buying Bitcoin from an institution. You're buying it from an individual. So liquidity works in different ways, right? If you earn Bitcoin, well, there are certain people who earn a living in Bitcoin, but they have to pay rent. So every month they're going to be selling Bitcoin. And these people, we like to refer to them as Vexlocks, but they exist. And Vexel is an answer to many of their prayers, right? And you look at something, and most people have heard of local Bitcoins.
Yep.
At this point. Local Bitcoins, we're kind of carrying on that torch. But the biggest difference is, local Bitcoins had a big security flaw. Rating system, based on start, reputation system, not a good one. This is different. Vexel is truly based on trust. It's based on the fact that I trade with people that I know and I feel comfortable trading with. I would never trade with somebody that I don't feel comfortable with.
Imagine this. The market's crashing. Exchanges are freezing withdrawals. But you You are cool as a cucumber because you are unruggable. By joining my Become Unruggable mentoring program, you'll get one-on-one support to safely move your Bitcoin into self-custody. I'll guide you step by step at your own pace, as well as making sure you have a rock-solid recovery plan in place. Take control, stay sovereign. Get in touch with me via X, Nostr, or send me an email at becomeunruggable@proton.me, and let's make you unruggable. In a world where water spills, fires rage, and pets chew everything in sight, only one thing can save your Bitcoin seed phrase: StampSeed. Don't let a coffee accident turn your Bitcoin into Bitcoin gone. With StampSeed, your seed phrase is engraved in metal, safe from elements, toddlers, and your own clumsiness. Use promo code BTCSTORY at stampseed.com for 15% off, because in the end, metal always wins. And now, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. And it's interesting you brought up, and I was going to bring up next the local Bitcoins, because that's kind of how it all started on kind of this peer-to-peer marketplace. Local Bitcoins was kind of one of the oldest ones, and unfortunately, or fortunately now due to Vexel, but I mean, it shut its operations specifically during the period that Vexel was born, during COVID. It shut down. And I remember some people that they used to use it. And I had a few guests that actually started their Bitcoin journey in 2014, 15, and they were buying and selling Bitcoin on local Bitcoins. They were essentially kind of making some money off that and kind of pushing it forward. Local Bitcoins has a place in the Bitcoin history, but now Vexel is kind of the next, call it local Bitcoin, or better call it trusted Bitcoin in the space, which I think it's a much nicer model because, as you mentioned, Grafton, like buying stuff off your friends, the incentive is much higher and there's much less risk. And there's definitely risk associated when you're either buying or selling Bitcoin. As I told you just a few minutes ago, with my heart rate like picking up when I'm doing an exchange, and I'm like, oh my God, especially if it's a bigger amount and you're like, oh my God, am I gonna get rugged here? Am I not? What's happening?
Well, and that speaks also to the beauty of Bitcoin is that it's open source, right? So if I look at what we're trying to do, is Satoshi Labs, right? If you look at what Satoshi Labs has done for the space and for Bitcoin, right, is that they pretty much pioneered a lot of things. The hardware wallet, the reason that hardware wallets exist is because of Trezor. They invented the world's first hardware wallet. But not only that, with that, they gave us BIP39, right? Which made Bitcoin convenient and more accessible for people because now they had an easier way to keep things secure. And you look at, you fast forward and you look at what they're continuing to do is, what is Vexel? Vexel is here to make Bitcoin, the ethos of Bitcoin, convenient and accessible again, to make it as it was intended. Bitcoin was essentially created almost in protest. It's very clear that there were reasons why it was created, and so we have to make it easier for people. And I will never shit on other companies too much, right? Because I believe that we all have the same goal. And when I first started, I had these conversations with my idols, Stick and Slush, and Stick has been one of the people who really has put things into perspective for me so that I could understand them clearly and I could see the bigger picture more than any person ever. And I started at Trezor. I was very ambitious, and I was well, what do you think about Ledger or these other our competition? And he goes, they're not competition. I don't look at any of them that way. There is one destination. We are different vehicles and we're all traveling the same highway. We want to educate, we want to build Bitcoin projects, and we want to make it better for everybody and make it easier for people. And we all have the same goal. And so when I look at, Coinbase, right? Coinbase came along, and it made sense to my mom. It made sense to people because it did, in a way, mirror investment platforms. It did, in a way, mirror the things that people are used to. The problem is that Bitcoin wasn't intended to mirror anything. It was intended to be its own, something totally different without financial institutions, right? So, we've gotten, and I'm very thankful for anyone that has helped push Bitcoin forward. And that's also the beauty of open source, and why I talk about it all the time is like, we built Vexel, we're building it, and we're trying to create what is essentially the easiest and most convenient way for people. And so of course people are going to have thoughts, they're going to have feedback, they're going to have ideas, and I say I welcome them, right? Is, you know, I get into arguments sometimes with people on Nostr and these kind of places because they hear Vexel and they immediately say, oh no, that doesn't work. And I go, okay, well, let's talk about it, because I would love to know, because that's the beauty of open source. If you can make Vexel better, mission accomplished. We're nonprofit. We're not trying to gain anything other than to build a tool that makes it better for everyone. So, you know, looking at social graphing, you know, you brought this up, is there's a lot of people work on this. You know, look at John Carvalho and PubKey and you know, Nostr and all these things. Is this is a thing that everyone is aware that we've got to do better. We've got to create. And so people say, well, why doesn't Vexel use Nostr? And say, well, Nostr has 20,000 daily or weekly active users. Like, there's not a web of trust there, right? Currently, the best web of trust in existence is phone numbers, with a close second maybe being Facebook. Right, Facebook's been around. It's the oldest social network, really, that took off.
If you still have it and use it.
If you still have it, but the way that Facebook works is they basically built a web of trust, because they said, hi, here I am, and these are all the people I've known my whole life. Here are our mutual friends. You probably know each other too, right? And you know, that's even something as crazy as like, yes, I still have a Facebook account because my mom, like, she posts family stuff sometimes and it's just easier. But it's crazy when I look on there and I see like, oh, I have 77 mutual friends in common with this person, and I don't know the other person, right? But I go like, I feel like I should know this person. If I have 77, there's 77 people that I know that know this person, but I don't. How do I not know this person? You know? So if I was going to do a Bitcoin trade with that person, I would be like, all right, I don't know them, but I got 77 friends in common. So even if I don't know them, I'll tell you what I can do. I can really quickly ask one of our mutual friends that I do know really well, hey, do you know this guy? And is he cool? And that, again, is how you scale trust. Because you have every reason to be good, to not behave in a negative or bad way or scam me. Because if you scam me, what am I going to do? I'm telling Gigi, hey, Gigi, our mutual friend that you trust and I trust, well, turns out he's a bad guy. All right. And so some people might say, well, I don't want other people to know who I'm trading with or whatever. And that's fine too, right? Because let's say hypothetically we enter into a chat and I don't know you. All I know is that we have a mutual friend. Again, one mutual friend. Ooh, I don't know. A little more risk, but man, I tell you what, Max is a very good friend of mine. I trust Max. So you say you also know Max really well. So here's what we do. Can you just text Max a message? And he doesn't have to tell me who you are. He doesn't have to give me your name. He doesn't have to do anything. All you got to do is tell him to send me a thumbs up emoji, because that's how much I trust Max. Because even if all I have to do is tell Max then, hey, that guy that you gave me the thumbs up emoji on, I don't know who he was, but he scammed me. That damages his reputation. The one thing that we have the hardest time rebuilding in this world is our personal real world reputation. Our online reputation, well, you get 15 minutes of fame. I saw Hawk to a Girl. She's already come back. She's made a return, but she had to take 3 months off for people to forget about her. And that's what happens on the internet. People forget on the internet because all day long you're consuming content that's 15 to 30 seconds long. In the real world, I don't forget. If you screw me over, I will never forget that. And so that's really how we believe that we have built this thing. Right now, I have phone numbers of people that I trust. Those are the people that have my personal information. I don't share my phone number with everybody, right? We're protective of our phone number. Through that allows me to connect privately. Remember, Vexel does not see your phone number. We do not share your phone number. It's not like Telegram when you sign up. It's like Grafton, join Telegram. And then you get a message from somebody that you don't want to talk to saying, yeah, everything happens client side, right? Your chats are end-to-end encrypted. Your offers are encrypted separately. Your profile is encrypted separately. And your numbers and contacts are encrypted separately. They never communicate with each other. So hypothetically, even if someone were to get the hashes and get the phone numbers from the hashes, what do they get? They get nothing. They get a list of randomly generated phone numbers that are not connected to Bitcoin. They're not connected to trades. They're not connected to chats. Nothing. My dog walker, my pizza company, all of these people are part of it. There's no way to tell which ones are Bitcoiners, which ones aren't. The information is valuable. I can go to ChatGPT and say, I need numbers for the Berlin area for Kreuzberg, and it will print out numbers that are more valuable. So we've thought about that in every way. Vexel is a true cypherpunk project. And that's why I said is the open source nature of it is if you got a better idea, I'm all ears. Let's do it. But right now we're focused on building the absolute best, strongest, most convenient tool so that you can tell your grandmother, hey, grandma, you're interested in Bitcoin? Use Vexel. Use Vexel. Actually, I think older people are way more inclined to do it than younger people because, like I said,
they like the social aspect.
They have less social anxiety than, younger people, I guess. So I don't know.
True.
But I think it's getting easier.
So I was going to ask, so how do you, so if I understand correctly, Vexel is like it's a sub-brand of Satoshi Labs, right? They're the guys who launched it and who financed. How does the financing part happen, or it's not that finance intensive, so to say, the operations? The biggest thing, I guess, operations are launching it.
Yeah. So initially, we were funded and supported by Satoshi Labs through an initial donation, but no, we are financed completely and totally through grants and donations. We have been very fortunate to receive grants from OpenSats and from the Human Rights Foundation. This has helped us immensely, but we are actively fundraising and seeking more. As I said, we have zero monetization. We will never monetize Vexel. We operate purely on donations. We have a Geyser fund. You can donate directly through our website at vexel.it. We also have the foundation. So you can visit vexel.foundation to learn more about how we're not only trying to fund Vexel, but other privacy preserving projects. And, also on the foundation website is you can see the financial tyranny index, which is showing you, this is what you can expect in your country. This is what they're doing. CBDC statuses, all this kind of things. And so we're really trying to build the tools that will essentially give us freedom, that are censorship resistant. And so we are funded purely through donations. If you know someone, or if you would like to help us, or if you'd like to contribute, please reach out. We're doing this. If you see something in the app, that you want to improve or something, open an issue on GitHub. Like I said, we're open source. We appreciate everything, every bit of help we can get. We are, I can say, 5 people and a dog.
Yeah.
The dog
who's the big mascot.
Yeah, he's already left the room, but
he's going to do a trade, so he'll be back, Grafton.
Yeah, I never meet someone. So when I reveal my identity in Vexel, so when someone says like, okay, how can I recognize you on a trade? It's a picture of my dog, because it's like, just look for this guy. You're going to see him instantly. You're not going to recognize me. I look like every other Czech person out there.
Nice.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's been one of the hardest parts, is really like financing it and keeping it going. From a nonprofit perspective, is like, we don't have the budget to advertise. We don't have the budget to do this. And that's why I'm thankful to come on, your show, because it gives me an opportunity to share it with other people. I do get invited to a lot of conferences and things like that. And I'm always grateful. And I love going to these events and meeting people. And if you have a Bitcoin meetup, like locally, if you want Vexel to be a reality, like in your area, and you've got a Bitcoin meetup, like reach out to us. We will list your meetup on our website. We will, we have right now, we have a really cool thing going on. Like tomorrow night, I'll be in Vienna, and which I know has no relevance for your audience, but like we're going tomorrow to Vienna on the 28th of March for a Vexel meetup. And they're organizing it, but we've developed these cards. They're called B Talks and B Quiz cards. It's something that through the collaboration with 21 of our initial selected meetups, we're refining these cards to create basically the ultimate pack for meetups. So if you have a meetup and you got newbies or people who are learning and stuff, well, we've got a game to break the ice to help get the conversation going and these kinds of things.
Nice.
We have a pub quiz on one side, so there's like questions from OG, like only OGs with no god level questions, and then there's stuff that like how many Bitcoins will there ever be, and this helps to get people talking. But on the other side, there are talking points. So like one of them is is Bitcoin boiling oceans? Let's talk about that, right? Because that's the you go home for Thanksgiving or family and your mom says, well, I heard Bitcoin's bad for the environment. You're like, well, actually, let's talk about what Gridless is doing in Africa, and let me show you how they're taking wasted energy and we're building it. So these kinds of conversations we think are super valuable for communities and meetups. And so we've developed these cards, we've distributed them now, but we will soon be opening them and sourcing them and making them available for free to every Bitcoin community around the world. Amazing. But if you want to get a pack from us, from yourself, like you can absolutely reach out and tell us a little bit about your meetup. And we'll put you hopefully get you in the beta program and help you. You can help us like continue to make these awesome, because we would like to continue to do it and add more and more as Bitcoin keeps growing. But one thing we've added with that is if your Bitcoin meetup is in the beta program, one of the cards has like an NFC chat tag on it. And if you tap that, you'll get golden glasses in the app. And that lets other people know that when they see the offers, like, hey, this offer is not, I don't have many connections maybe, but this is someone who goes to Bitcoin meetups. So this is a good, like probably a more trusted contact. We can meet at the meetup. These kinds of things.
It's your golden tick on the Vexel ecosystem. I like it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It means that basically you've been to a Vexel meetup, you're a proper Vexel, and you want a Vexel and you want to make it work. So it's one way that we hope to gamify a little bit and help to encourage people to attend community events, because you can be a Bitcoiner and never leave your room, but
that doesn't change the world.
And some of the best Bitcoiners are really the people who go to as many things as possible, because you have a voice and you should ask questions and you should speak up.
I've got one more question, personal question regarding Vexel. So I downloaded it. I checked it out in the last couple of weeks. One thing I didn't spot is you don't have an option for changing languages, right? So it's natively just in English. Is this something that's in the book? Or you have? Or I missed it?
Fully localized into, I don't know how many languages now. Swahili,
so that was my bad
Pidgin
homework.
English.
I didn't notice it.
Yeah, you should just go to the settings page and you should be able to quick switch language into whatever. I think there are tons of languages there now.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I think even Pidgin English is there. Swahili, Japanese. So that's another thing, right? That was one of my favorite stories of like just Vexel, is people reaching out to us. And we had a guy from Namibia. His name is Olken. He's a legend. You should absolutely, if you want a good guest.
Let's connect this. Let's have Olken on the show.
I will connect you with Olken. He's amazing. But he's the founder of EasySats, which is in Namibia. And Olken reached out to me randomly and was like, hey man, the Vexel's cool, but there's no Namibian dollar here. And he was like, could you guys add Namibian dollar? And I was like, it's going to be a hard sell for, like me going to my developers and be like, hey, I know you guys are working on a lot of stuff, but can we go ahead and add the Namibian dollar? And they're like, how many users do we have there? One. But he made a really good point. He was like, well, it's going to be a lot easier for me to tell people about it because I can go, look, it's localized, it's for us. And I went, you got a point. So we added the Namibian dollar that weekend, and Vexel started to grow. And the same thing is like, look at also like in Tanzania, Kenya, like these countries, like people have started using it here and they started localizing it. So we had one guy reach out and says, hey, I speak Swahili. I'm happy to localize it in a matter of a day. Like if you want Vexel in your language, I think there's something like 400 strings. So it's like 400 words or, maybe about 500 words. So if you want Vexel, you can easily go to our GitHub, click on localizations. You can localize it into your language overnight. It's very easy. Once it's done, very next update of the app, you've got your language. So that's the beauty of open source. That's the beauty of making things accessible, is that anyone really can contribute.
I love it. Yeah, because that's one thing, like with, especially in the Bitco ecosystem, like a lot of projects, a lot of platforms, everything is like natively in English. And even though English is like the most commonly spoken language, but still like majority of the world, like 80-75% of the world doesn't speak English. They speak it in their own native languages. So it's like a big barrier, including this show, which is only in English. Hopefully as AI develops, hopefully there's going to be future GGs in different languages, transcribing and resharing it. But I mean, it's one thing that I've noticed, kind of a lot of people that I interfere with, and I mostly live in Russia, and everything, when I tell them about Bitcoin, they're like, oh, like send me some sources. And I'm like, but I don't speak English. And I'm like, damn, man, I'll do my best to kind of semi-translate it, but like it's tough. And some of these platforms, especially like there's only one GG. I can't go to everyone's houses and sit down and walk them through step by step. So that's amazing to hear that you have a localization kind of.
Yeah, and I mean there are, so I will shout European Bitcoiners out as well. Like there are amazing communities of people who are doing, the Lord's work, who are taking sources and taking that information and they're localizing it and translating it. And that's something that, we need more of. Like I said, is not everybody talks to machines. A lot of people, like if you want to work in the space, there is a ton of things that we need. If you have a little bit of education experience, if you're a good public speaker, right? there are developers who would love more than anything to have a mouthpiece, to have somebody to translate their thoughts and, into ideas. And so like there is always something for you to do. And, just making that. And I remember the first time, like I said, I'm not a coder. The Namibian dollar thing was my, like, I was pushing for it. And
learning curve.
Yeah. And Leia was like, all right, do it. She goes, open the issue and we'll figure it. And after I did it, she goes, so how does it feel? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, to be a contributor to open source. And I went, cool. And then I started looking and getting all my little green boxes on GitHub or and my commits and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's cool. Like maybe I don't talk to only people anymore. Maybe I can things. And then, it translated over to me. Like, I think I opened an issue on like Blue Wallet one time because it gave me confidence. Is when I opened an issue and something did it, is like I noticed something about Blue Wallet that I was like, maybe they can make this better. And open an issue, they pulled it and did it. And it was so cool. And then, like, so that kind of thing is like, even if you just want to start making an impact, and even if you're not a coder, it's like you can still get a GitHub and you can still open your favorite apps and try to destroy the thing. And when you try to destroy it and you find those bugs, then tell the people that you found them, and I promise you they're not going to be like, they're going to be like, thank you so much. And if you continuously do that and you continuously contribute, yeah, there's a space for you and you'll find it. But like I said, this whole industry is filled with passionate people. I mean, you quit your job to talk to people every day about Bitcoin. Like that's the reality. Is it's not just a dream anymore. It is an absolute reality for us. We are winning and we're doing what we love, and this doesn't feel like work.
100%.
Like, I am glad to be going on holiday tomorrow. I'll tell you that. Going to a conference, Knut put it really clear. He was like, going to a conference is kind of like the traveling circus. And I was like, yeah. I was like, but it's kind of fun because you show up and you're like, hey, you see your friends. And what I realized is like
a family reunion, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I talk to some people, every day that I only know through the Bitcoin space that I've met at conferences. And, like somebody who's become a friend of mine is like Chris from Seedor, the guy he makes the
the super tall guy.
in my opinion, I will shill Seedor here. In my opinion, it is still the best, still backup solution because you can adapt it and change it. So yeah, Seedor, but Chris has been, so helpful with us. He's a quiz master. He helped us last year at BTC Prague, but, I don't speak German. To have, his insights and to, have people, everybody's looking out for each other. And
everyone's back.
Yeah, we're Bitcoiners. And, you feel like you're part of something. And it's like I studied history and political science. I read books about people getting together in pubs and talking about revolution. How do we change the world? And there's reasons why there's books written about them, right? And if I look over there at my bookshelf, well, there's a lot of books over there that I know the author personally,
Yeah.
and like, what do? We get together and we talk about how do we change the world. And so, it's like, that was never my ambition. I never thought that I would have a name in a history book or something. And that's still not my ambition. But it is kind of surreal when you realize, like, wait a minute. I feel
we are
like
writing history.
I am. Yeah, I feel like we are contributing. And, maybe even if I'm in a footnote somewhere one day, cool. I just am glad that we have this thing. And I'm glad that I'm alive to be here at this time. I was like, you could wake
100%.
up and you could be born in 50 years when they've already got it all figured out. It's fun to be here in this moment, and it's never been a better time to be alive, I think. It's like we're surrounded by
100%.
negativity. We're surrounded by war. We're surrounded by politics, all this kind of stuff. But I'm going like, sometimes you got to stop and realize, like, yeah,
Life
but
is
it's also
beautiful.
never been more fun to be alive.
Yeah, I touch upon this a lot on this podcast. I tell people that, like I'm of the thought that it's the most incredible time to be alive because we are like shaping this brand new brave world, which we're all a part of. And, kind of, we're not just witnessing and reading about it, as you said, in books, but we're like out here and you can impact it. Anyone listening to the show, you can impact it with the decisions you do right now. Like, don't delay it and say, oh, I'll start doing something next year, or like New Year's resolution. I'll wait the 9 months to do it. No, man, just go out and do it now. And step by step, you will see your life change, and not just your own, but like everyone else's lives, and even an impact.
Yeah,
I think is incredible. I think it's incredible.
The best piece of advice that I ever listened to.
Let's do it, because I ask, by the way, sorry for interrupting. I kind of close up episodes on what is one piece of advice, and you, without me even asking you, went one good piece of advice. So let's go. What's that advice, Grafton?
Yeah, so a lot of people have a lot of good advice, right? But there's not everybody listens to it, right? Your friends will tell you, don't text your ex-girlfriend. You're still going to do it, right? But the best piece of advice I ever received, and I'd heard a million times before, but it never resonated with me, was I was, from one of my former English students. And he said to me, sometimes you got to take 2 steps backwards to go one giant step forward, or one giant leap forward. And I, at that time I was like, yeah, but it's, there's a lot of buts, because you have a comfort zone and you think like, well, if I do this, then I could lose my home. I could lose the opportunities that I have currently. And you have so much fear of that risk. And, we were in a weird place where fortunately, COVID gave me the strength to do that. But I left my comfortable job making plenty of money to take an entry-level position at Trezor. And, somehow I never dreamed that I would wind up sitting on the board of a foundation with Stick and Slush. Like, what the hell? And so that's my advice, is whatever you're doing, if you're unhappy, but you're scared of leaving your comfort zone, like, the risk is small, because what do Bitcoiners do? They help each other. They really do. So if you're truly passionate about Bitcoin and you really want to work in the industry, I promise you there's a space for you. There are good people, good companies hiring. Look at Bitcoiner jobs. Hey, if you want to help out part-time, if you want to get your feet wet, reach out to us, right? You can become a community manager in your area, and you can start meeting other Bitcoiners and start growing your personal connections this way. Vexel in reality is, hey, maybe you don't have, like, people say, oh, I don't have a ton of friends. Well, okay, make some.
Let's make some. Yeah, I was going to say.
Because if there's one group of people who want to be your friend, it's Bitcoiners, just as long as you're not a shitcoiner. Or, don't come at me with ETFs and don't mention MicroStrategy. I don't care. I want Bitcoin. Okay. But yeah, that's really the thing, is there is a space for you. If you want to make Bitcoin a reality, find a way to contribute. If you speak multiple languages, as you said, get in the European Bitcoiners group, see where they need help, translate articles, help localize apps, make Bitcoin more accessible for everyone. And, you don't depend on financial institutions to have you in their best interest. There's a lot of big companies in Bitcoin with a lot of money. Help the little guys, I would say. So there are a lot of brilliant ideas, like if you go down the eCash rabbit hole, Nostr, like there's so many areas, there's so many things, and there's no excuse not to be curious and not to see what's out there for you, especially if you're unhappy in your current job. And I say that to anyone. It doesn't matter what level of skill you have. This is a completely different beast. This isn't, you don't go to university to learn about Bitcoin.
To get a degree, yeah.
Well, I must say, I shout the Bitpolito guys in Torino, Italy. They are doing it. I think in Plan B, together with Plan B, they have a master's program in Bitcoin now. But yes, I mean, you could be working a McDonald's job. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Maybe you're good with people. Maybe you have some ideas. Just start contributing and it will fall into place.
Incredible advice. Well, Grafton, you couldn't have said it better. Take the leap of faith. I am sure you won't regret it. I personally don't regret it. And I'm sure you don't regret it either, Grafton, with all the incredible stuff that happened on your end. I guess the last question would be, where can we send our listeners that want to follow you, Grafton, get involved, ask you questions, and of course, join the Vexel community?
Yeah, you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever they call it these days. Elon
The Bird app.
Yeah. I'm Sats Disco, like Satoshi's, like Sats Disco, like disco dancing.
Nice.
I'm not a disco dancer, but it ties
Sats Disco.
Sats Disco. But Sats Disco on Nostr and on X. You can also visit our website where you can find our contact information and a lot more about Vexel in general. Please check out our blog, like vexel.it. Visit the community page, see if there's a meetup happening near you, visit, but really just check us out. I don't want you to trust us. Verify, be skeptical, have your doubts, prove us wrong, because I've been trying to do it for 3 years and there's just simply not a better way to buy Bitcoin. And if you've got an idea, come tell me why I'm wrong.
Love it. I welcome
it.
Grafton, thanks so much again for coming on. It's a pleasure meeting you. I look forward to meeting you in person later this summer in Prague. I'll be back at BTC Prague. Anyone listening, definitely get your tickets for BTC Prague. A little plug with BTCSTORY for some little discount to stack some more KYC-free Bitcoin. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks, Grafton, for coming on. I look forward to seeing how your journey develops, and of course with Vexel. Don't be shy to get involved. And until next time.
Yep, my pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit too. Your support keeps us going, and we appreciate it. See you on the next one.